Layla Jader. I am a retired consultant in public health genomics. We came to Britain in 1978 for postgraduate studies. I was born to a family of 6 girls. My parents were both educationalists. My father was a reader in mathematics in Baghdad University. My mother, primary school teacher. And I was number 3 for the children. I had very lovely life, wonderful school years. I achieved very well there, year on year. And I ended up in medical school. Actually, my eldest sister already was in medical school. My second sister was in pharmacy. And so it's almost to doing very well. It was part of it, to do sciences. So I ended up in medicine. Actually, my other sisters as well, the younger one went into medicine as well. So they've all done very well. It was very I had a lot of encouragement from my parents. And when finishing medical school, and I met my husband in medical school, we got married the last year, and I had my first baby there in Baghdad. She was 2.5 years when we came to Britain for postgraduate studies in 1978. And so it was anesthesia, to study diploma in anesthesia at the time. With time, I realized I can do more than just the diploma. So I asked the Iraqi government for extension to do the fellowship. They refused. But they said you have to pay all the government spending on medical school to stay in Britain. So that's how we ended up paying our fees, medical school fees, and we stayed in Britain. My husband studying pediatrics, and I was studying anesthesia then. But it became very apparent it's very hard. Life was very difficult. I had 1 child. My first appointment, I should say, was in Swansea in 1979. And that's how we came to Wales. So since 1979, we've been in Wales. During that time, it became very hard because I delivered my second child in Swansea, and all of a sudden we had 2 children. And with the on-calls, it's very hard to keep up with caring for the family, looking after the children, and doing exams and so on. So I decided to change my career, and I went into genetics at the Institute of Medical Genetics, and to work on cystic fibrosis. I spent 5 years at the Institute, and they were the best years of my career, my life. Really, I achieved so much, packed it in 5 years. I managed to write my MD thesis, which is like PhD for doctors, and published a lot of very important papers in journals, went around the world, going through to conferences, presenting. Very active life, enjoyed so much. I wanted to stay in genetics and become a specialist in genetics, sadly, because my background was anesthesia, so it's not general medicine or pediatrics. So the advice then was to go into public health and keep your interest in genetics, combining the two. When I started training in public health, obviously having learned the quality standards of how you develop counseling, and I took that on board when I saw antenatal screening so fragmented. Then I'm talking about the early 90s, and so I went and studied, surveyed women, and asked them about their feelings and how they felt about the whole screening program. And the words that they uttered, I used them to influence a multidisciplinary team that I set up as a registrar. And that progressed when I became senior registrar. And that multidisciplinary team, we set up a strategy at the end. That work became part of my Part 2 exam to get the specialism in public health. And then it became the strategy for Brotaf Health Authority. And that work was so influential. It won several awards, international, national awards. I was runner-up for Hospital Doctor of the Year, the Golden Helix Award with the team. So, it influenced the National Screening Committee, that they came and visited us to learn firsthand how we achieved all multi-system quality assurance of antenatal screening, and including courses for staff working in screening. And it became a sort of national standard for other authorities in the UK to learn from our experience. So I was very proud of that. My work ended up, my first assignment, or my first appointment, I should say, was senior lecturer in public health genomics. It was the first in the country in 1999, very revolutionary title in a way, because the people work in this topic is very small. Yeah. They were very small at the beginning. They're very small indeed. Now we have a bigger cadre of people working, especially in Cambridge. But at the time, it was very few. And I achieved quite a lot during these 3 years of fixed-term contract. Sadly, it had to end because the NHS was in reorganization and public health genomics was not a priority. It was really the impact of genomics on public health regarding policy developments. So I had to go back to general public health and get the training and so on in public health. We found Welsh people immediately very friendly, very welcoming, and very trying to help actually our neighbors, because we didn't have family, we didn't have friends when we came, and I had only one child who was 2.5 years old. So it was a struggle because we have deadlines and we want to achieve, we want to finish, we don't want. Coming from a person who was always achieving high, I found it very hard to lose that. So I was really pushing myself, and it's becoming very hard to compromise between family and requirements and getting your degree, my husband's work and his degree. So it was really, I call it the hard-working years. I don't know how they passed, 10, 20 years at the beginning. It was very much like on a treadmill, year after year. Gradually, we built a network of people to help us. When I changed my specialty, it became much easier, and we managed to compromise and achieve what we came for, and more than that, both of us. In Baghdad, we had our extended family to support us, even when we had our very young daughter, and both of us studying and working there. So it was different. You have very strong bond and family commitment to each other. And Baghdad was expanding, really exponentially improving health and education and so on. Sadly, afterwards, life changed after the wars. That's how we ended up staying in Britain. So when we came to Britain to study, well before all these wars, we found that setback, the difficulty of not having your network, not having your extended family. English was our second language anyway, and we both studied in schools where it was taught actually English, and I studied French as well. So that wasn't the difficulty. We learned, so it wasn't big jump in a way, but it was the support as a doctor. Any woman, if you ask her, any female doctor, she will tell you if she has family, it's very hard to balance family and work and studies and so on. If you add to that I had to uproot my family from a different culture to a different country, so it was even doubly difficult. And my branch, my specialty, caused me trouble as well, because I was in a very small subspecialty of public health genomics, trying to influence others. So it made it harder. So, as I said before, it's really, my advice to my daughters, to any woman coming to study in this country and to live in this country, to try hard to have a network of support if you can. If it's not, pace yourself gradually and to achieve what you need. And you have to work doubly hard. It goes without saying. And it's only natural because we have to show ourselves. And we have to adapt to the new life. And that's one of the reasons we are staying after all in this country. So you can bring your values and merge them with the new values. That's the best outcome as far as I'm concerned, rather than trying to influence this society to change according to your need. No, it's really, we came to this country, we can bring and show the goodness we have, and at the same time adopt and adapt to other values where we live. And I am very much for that attitude. Looking back at my career, I faced a lot of obstacles. Obstacles like any other medical woman, but they were even more because of where I come from, not bluntly, but very in a subtle way, and shaped as different issues rather than very obviously discrimination. So I had those difficulties. My work became harder to achieve very good value work that I believe in many people, hence the outcome that achieved the awards, so it must be good quality. But it was at the higher, it was very stressful time in my life. But my two daughters saw me coming back home, facing these difficulties and how I overcome them. And at the same time, they have seen me coming back very happy that I have achieved quite a lot and people are saying good work. So I must have done something good that both of them ended up in medicine. And I'm very proud of them. And actually they married local medics as well. So I have a family full of doctors and all working for the NHS. That's why it's so dear to me. And so we are very close, and with their children whom I adore, my grandchildren. That's how I would like my life in the future. I think I covered it.